Good evening and welcome to our special half-hour program celebrating women. I'm Angela Kennecke.
And I'm Sophie Heineman.
And I'm Sammy Bieland. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to show you the impact women are making across KELOLAND.
We're here at the Mary W. Somervold Hall inside the Washington Pavilion in downtown Sioux Falls. The hall is named in honor of Mary Somervold, the first executive director of the South Dakota Symphony Orchestra. She was also the first woman appointed to the Board of Trustees at Sanford Health System before serving as president twice.
And on top of all that, she was also the president of the South Dakota Symphony Guild and the Board of Trustees of the Washington Pavilion, among many other titles. Somervold also taught music at several Sioux Falls schools.
Another trailblazing woman from South Dakota is possibly someone you've never heard of before.
Gladys Pyle from Huron set a lot of firsts for women in the political arena beginning in the 1920s.
As KELOLAND's Kelly Volk is about to show us, while her time in Congress was short, she left a lasting impression.
Listen to the late Gladys Pyle talk about her family.
As I say, my father and mother were pioneers. My grandfather and grandmother were pioneers.
And it's no surprise, she too would become a pioneer. Gladys became the first woman elected to the South Dakota legislature. She was the first woman to be elected Secretary of State in South Dakota. The Republican was also the first woman elected to the U.S. Senate without being previously appointed. Years ago, she told KELOLAND News her colleagues treated her just like everyone else.
Of course, at first, they were more interested in color of neckties I enjoyed than in anything else, and whether I objected to smoking in the House chamber. And I explained to them that neither one of those things had anything to do with legislation.
Gladys comes from a family of leaders. In fact, her mother, Mamie Pyle, was a women's suffrage leader in the state.
She is the reason women got the right to vote 2 years before the national amendment went through.
Gladys's father, John, was the South Dakota Attorney General. Beadle County Museum's executive director, Rachel Farrell, says the Pyles are a part of South Dakota history that can't be forgotten.
They're, to an extent, a contemporary of Laura Ingalls Wilder, and what they've done is just as influential and important to our state.
While we may remember her most for being a woman of firsts,
And I didn't feel that it was any tremendously important thing, except that it did break the ice for many other women who will be coming afterwards, and other people too, not all women.
that's the true spirit of a pioneer.
And I couldn't very well be anything else.
80 years after Pyle served in Washington, D.C., other women are now making their mark in politics. In fact, there is a record number of women in the U.S. Congress right now. Records are also being set right here in South Dakota. Not only are these women breaking barriers for their gender, they're also representing their cultural backgrounds.
25 women are serving in the U.S. Senate. 102 women are members of the House of Representatives.
Those girls in junior high and high school, they're going to look at the United States Congress and the Senate and say, there's a woman like me out there.
In South Dakota, there has also been a historic shift for women in politics. The state voted in the first female governor with Kristi Noem.
I want them to see my heart. I want them to see me as a mom and as a wife and caring about our families in South Dakota.
We also have the most Native American women to ever serve in the South Dakota legislature right now. Puri Puyer, Tamara St. John, and Red Dawn Foster are breaking barriers by representing their home districts, which include the Sisseton, Wahpeton, and Pine Ridge tribes. Each woman has big goals for her time at the state capitol.
I'm able to bridge those gaps and to find the common denominator in all of us and bring that to this body.
Being a good role model for the next generation is probably the most significant thing that I could accomplish with my life.
Eventually, we'd just like to be at least 12% of the population represented here, because we're that, if not more, in the state of South Dakota, to where it will no longer be a novelty that we're actually here.
One of the big issues these women hope to face together is missing and murdered Indigenous women. It's a topic they feel they can bring a unique perspective to. They've already spoken with Governor Noem and hope to get more attention on this problem.
There is legislation happening in North Dakota as well as on a national level, and with the possibilities in the future within the state of South Dakota, it's something that we want to have as a focal point.
I am thrilled that these three ladies are here and that they're a part of the conversation. They will bring a different perspective that I believe will end up in better policy.
The women hope their experiences will help them represent the people in their districts like no one else can. And they hope they won't be the last to break records.
We're probably not going to just be 3 next year. We'll probably be more.
While women are making strides in politics, there's another area where they are still struggling to succeed. That's in business. Back in 1992, I reported on the glass ceiling. That's the barrier women were running into when trying to move up the company ladder. They couldn't make it to those coveted executive positions. Now, 27 years later, has the glass ceiling been shattered?
Today, 50% of all women work. Women have made significant gains in entry-level jobs and first levels of management. But according to the Department of Labor, most women reach a point in their careers where they don't go any further.
Back in 1992, women held only 2% of upper-level positions in companies. Today, women make up 9% of top-level management positions in corporate America. That's only a 4% increase in nearly 30 years.
And so the glass ceiling, are we breaking through it? Not as quickly for women yet. There's a lot of reasons.
Margaret Sumption is a career and executive coach. She was also part of that KELOLAND News Glass Ceiling series back in 1992.
If a man is selected, the qualifications don't have to be as high. The education doesn't have to be as high. The level of qualifications and experience and the references from other people don't have to be as glowing. And the money is always better.
Sumption had just started her own business after a man was offered more money for a position she turned down due to low pay.
Now I need to write a thank you note because it really did change my life.
Sumption says after dealing with sex bias in the workplace, she needed to become her own boss.
I can't look back and be disappointed about my decision at all. I can only be excited about the fact that the gigs lasted 28 years and I still have plenty of work to do.
In 1992, KELOLAND News also talked with women about to graduate from college about their career outlook. Jen is planning on getting into the administrative end of health care.
It's a great field to get into, and I'm really excited about choosing that career.
Jen isn't expecting any trouble getting to the top level of management.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot more women in healthcare.
Young, naive to the realities of what it really means when you get into the working world.
Naive or not, Jen Porter's predictions about her career have mostly come true.
You're in healthcare administration. That's what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
You've got the word executive past your name. So do you think you shattered the glass ceiling?
I would say yeah, in many respects I have.
It didn't come without a lot of hard work, but even all that work and ability wasn't enough to capture the title of executive.
I didn't realize how much you actually have to really be your own cheerleader. You have to fight for yourself.
Sumption believes in today's working world, women still have to work at least twice as hard as a man to shatter the glass ceiling.
Women have to be in service longer, make greater contribution, and greater contribution over time to be given the opportunity to master the next level.
We are just getting started with our Celebrating Women special. After the break, we take you to De Smet for a look at the Laura Ingalls Wilder Museum and out to Chamberlain, where we honor Native American women in South Dakota. Next.
Welcome back to our Celebrating Women special. One of the most famous women from South Dakota is Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Her Little House series has touched millions of lives since they were first published in the 1930s and 40s. While her books have come under recent scrutiny for racist comments, literary historians hope that prompts more critical thinking of her work and better discussions of race relations.
Wilder and her family moved to the Dakota Territory in 1879, living in a homestead near DeSmet, South Dakota. Today, you can step back in time and tour the homes where the family grew up.
A new face that is already becoming famous in South Dakota is that of the Dignity statue in Chamberlain, which can be seen from Interstate 90. And while it was only installed a few years ago, the statue is already becoming an iconic feature.
Dignity represents the rich Native American culture of the state. The Native woman wears an 1850s dress with a star quilt that represents respect, honor, and admiration.
Dignity is actually modeled after 3 Lakota women. The sculptor said he hopes this statue shows the world the beauty of the Native cultures.
Another woman who became a symbol of South Dakota is Sylvia Hanken. Hanken and her husband Mort were pioneers in communications industry in Sioux Falls. The Hanken family started KSOO Radio and KSOO TV. In 1974, Sylvia took over both the radio and television stations.
Perhaps her greatest gift to Sioux Falls is the St. Patrick's Day Parade. To this day, it attracts tens of thousands of people every year to downtown. Hanken said her goal was to make everyone feel like they were Irish for one day.
Hanken also earned her private pilot's license in 1940 and became a member of the Civil Air Patrol.
Still to come on our Celebrating Women special.
We really have that desire, and we have the ability as females in agriculture to do all of those components.
We'll show you how women are forging their own paths in careers that were usually held by men, coming up next.
Welcome back to our Celebrating Women special. South Dakota is known for its strong agricultural industry, and women have long been a part of it.
From the book work to the field work and everything in between, KELOLAND's Kelly Volk shows you why it's an industry for all.
This is the kind of work Jamie Johnson grew up on in Nebraska. Looking at her now, you'd never guess she once wanted to leave this lifestyle behind.
I actually swore I'd never marry a farmer because I did not like living on the farm.
But we all know the life you have planned for yourself when you're young doesn't always hold up.
But after being in college and being away from it, I kind of longed for the quietness of farm life.
And so today, Jamie and her husband Brian co-manage their cattle and farm operations near Frankfort.
At one point, I didn't know if I should call myself a farmer, but after doing it for so long, I would give myself that title, I guess.
The parents of 4 are a team.
We discuss everything that's going to happen for the day, if somebody needs help with this or that or what goes on, and we make short-term goals and long-term goals of what we want to see happen on the farm.
Near Elkton, you'll find another couple working hand in hand.
Here's my husband and I riding horses as well.
Trish Van Dyke and her husband Cash are in the cattle and farming businesses together.
The summer is my favorite season because that's when we're bringing cows out to pasture, and we can get the 4-wheelers out and we go and check them.
It's not just the physical labor that keeps her busy during the year. She's also involved in the business side of the operation, including the bookkeeping.
We definitely do it as a team.
This is a common theme with many farms and ranches.
We really see women wanting to be more involved in their operations and not just, the breadwinner, or they're in the, they're making meals for the men. They're really becoming involved in their operation, getting more involved in the bookkeeping, the record keeping, maybe taking that marketing component to the next level.
Heather Gastner works for the SDSU Extension. She thinks there's an increased passion for the lifestyle.
It's a great way to raise your kids. It's a great spot to grow up. And I think as you move forward, you see that we really have that desire, and we have the ability as females in agriculture to do all of those components.
And the opportunities extend way beyond the farmyard.
You're going to find women everywhere. They might be your pharmaceutical rep, they might be your agronomist, your veterinarian.
Both women have ideas on how to keep their family operations running as the industry evolves.
I think it's a lot of marketing, and a lot of, like strategic kind of planning as well, and a lot of profit loss, making sure you're running your numbers.
The most important thing for Brian and I is just to be open to change and be open to new ideas and being open to, geez, it might fail.
Whatever happens, they're in it together.
Another career that is starting to see more women is in law enforcement.
Over the last few years, the South Dakota Highway Patrol has put more emphasis on diversity, especially when it comes to women. Brady Mallory talks with two troopers about why that's so important.
So this is where I spend most of my time when I'm out flying for the Highway Patrol.
Trooper Sarah Schumacher was never satisfied just being on the ground.
This is what tells you your aircraft heading, your aircraft altitude.
That's why she studied aviation, became a pilot, a certified flight instructor, a multi-engine instructor, and joined the South Dakota Highway Patrol in 2016.
I can work with our drone operators to help them understand things they might not understand, like about airspace or about weather forecasting, because I have a background in that and they don't.
Most of the time it's people don't slow down to a reasonable speed when it's icy or snowy out.
Trooper Bryn Rist studied criminal justice in college and also joined the HP in 2016. Following in her grandpa's footsteps is what put Rist in the driver's seat.
I just spoke with a lady that was crying because she went in the ditch and she didn't know what to do, and so, when you can show up and help someone, it just kind of makes you feel good.
The Highway Patrol hired Schumacher and Rist because they're qualified, determined, and made it through the typical 13 weeks of training. They just happened to be women.
Growing up, I didn't really have anyone that was a female in law enforcement because it's not, I guess, a very female-dominant job.
Older men and women sometimes ask me, I've had a lot of older women ask me, they're like, does your husband know that you do this, and is he okay with it?
In the last few years, the Highway Patrol has tried to change this by recruiting more women. It started seminars in 2015 to achieve this. Last year, we reported there were 13 female troopers. This year, there are 14 women out of a little more than 190 troopers in the state.
We have our own kind of club because we're outnumbered by the guys right now, and so it's really great because if we have a problem, we can go to one of the other women and we can say, hey, is this something that you've had a problem with?
Still, maybe in this region, the idea of law enforcement is still a white man. So does that present any challenges?
The challenge might be there, but for us, it's making sure that we get the word out and make sure that we have boots on the ground that are out there recruiting, actively recruiting.
Schumacher says different backgrounds are important because they bring new ideas and solutions to help keep you safe.
We're the ones who are eventually going to be running the organization, so it's good for us to be able to get in, see how things work, understand the culture, and then figure out what we think needs to change and go out and change it.
As for the future, Schumacher says her 7-year-old niece wants to be a pilot, and she hopes having this job will inspire her to go for it.
If I can do anything in my life that makes the path for them easier, for them to be able to walk that path without some of the setbacks maybe that I've had in my life, then I will do absolutely anything.
Leave it to a pilot to give future generations wings.
Coming up at our final segment of our Celebrating Women special.
I really just want, young women to believe in themselves and to do the hard work.
We talk with the University of Sioux Falls' new athletic director and her advice to any woman facing adversity next.
In December of 2017, Pam Gohl officially became the University of Sioux Falls' athletic director. Gohl holds the title as the first ever female athletic director since USF became Division II.
Pam Gohl is no stranger to athletics.
She worked her way up the ladder, starting off on the court playing basketball, later becoming a coach, and eventually landing her current role. She says her knack for leadership has made navigating the job easier.
I'm excited. I think, everybody always thought, what's a woman know about football? How can a woman be an athletic director if football is a major sport, which it is here at USF?
Her response is simple. You don't have to have played the game to understand it.
I watch an NBA basketball game, and I see a really short coach coaching all these tall guys, and I think he never played at the same level that they're playing, but he understands the game and he can still coach it. It's the same way with being an administrator.
About 23% of athletic directors across all 3 divisions in the NCAA are women. While Goals says it's a good start, there's a lot of room for growth.
It trickles down amongst the society where people believe that women can do any leadership position, and I think it's just a matter of time until there's more equality.
In 2018, 12 women became Division II athletic directors. Goal thanks the community in part for her success, but also shines a light on her family.
One thing that often comes up with women is work-life balance. How do you make that work? I would like to say that I have a wonderfully supportive husband who is very supportive of me professionally, and I have 2 very understanding children.
Goal's hope is to inspire other women to simply believe in themselves.
We have a lot of really good females in college athletics, whether they're athletes or they're my assistant coaches or they're young administrators, and I think it's only a matter of time.
With her hope and excitement for the future, Goal reminds women that the climb isn't easy.
I really just want, young women to believe in themselves, to do the hard work. Being an athletic director isn't an easy job, but there are a lot of jobs that are not necessarily easy.
The players, coaches, boosters, fans, and the overall community is her biggest reward.
It's all a balancing act, but if you find the right situation, it can work, and it's pretty neat, and I really feel fortunate to be here.
Her advice comes from experience, passing this along.
Best advice I can give is work hard when no one else is looking. And if you work hard, whether people are looking or not, that hard work will be rewarded and people above you will recognize that. And when you get your moment, embrace it.
That's all the time we have for our Celebrating Women special.
There are so many more women we would like to honor. If you know of a woman who is impacting her community, let us know about her. Just email us at news@keloland.com.
And thank you for joining us. And remember to honor the women in your life. Have a good night.